I hope all of you can see my screen. Just put a thumbs up if you can. That will be good. Um, Great. So thanks a lot for giving us the opportunity. Just to give you a very quick introduction about Arthan, we work towards strengthening the impact sector in India through capacity building and consulting support. Uh, there's a slight asterisk in this slide. Some of our work has now spread across South Asia as well, and even beyond. So something that we are very proud of, and we hope to spread the impact through human resource capacity building, support social impact organizations, aligning their organizational strategy to talent programs and building dialogues through thought leadership. And we create a lot of workshops, conferences, research, etc. We did something on women leadership in the social sector very recently in collaboration with the Rockefeller Foundation. We interviewed close to 250 women leaders in the country to analyze how hard it is for women to take up leadership positions in India vis-a-vis men. Um, Even though social sector seems to be more open and more inclusive, but very we got loads of insights. So something that we are constantly planning to do even further. um, so over the next 1.5 hours we'll be speaking about various things, like some of the challenges that we are facing as organizations in the space, people management systems and processes, um, all in with a focus around human capital, being because we believe that it's people which drive solutions for the deep problems that we are trying to solve in the space. Um, just to talk more deeper with what just Yasmin spoke about, right? So I think challenges in the social impact space are anyways growing, and with the pandemic spreading across the globe, it's becoming a humongous challenge for organizations to thrive and survive in some cases. And with regulatory challenges constantly being changed and reworked in certain geographies, it becomes slightly challenging. One of the things that we kind of checked, and this has been a very successful thing for organizations in the space, is how many of you know that um, there are these virtual job fairs, etc., which keep happening across the country? Joel, Yasmin, Julia, are you aware of similar job fairs which happen in your location? So I just happened to figure out these two, right? So one of them is in South Shore Center in Malaysia, if I'm not mistaken, right? Malaysia, yeah. And one of the job fairs recently happened on October 28th, which was also in Bogota in Colombia. Just wanted to check, are you aware of certain job fairs? Have you ever figured out ways to collaborate on such job fairs, etc., in your locations? Sorry, just stop sharing my screen so that we can speak. Yeah.
Yes and no. Before coming to the Triple CA, I used to work in the UN,
Okay.
sort of common system. So job fairs are common there. But for me, one of the challenges moving into the Triple CA is how do I translate whatever I learned in that type of large organization into a much
Sure.
smaller non-profit sector. So overall, I would answer no, I'm not aware from a Triple CA
Okay.
perspective.
Okay. Yeah, I one of the key factors why I mentioned this as a possible solution is we have seen, especially in India, many organizations, especially when they are hiring for technical roles. When I say technical roles in Yasmin's case, it would be more like public policy advocacy. There are so many colleges, courses, upcoming colleges and courses which are focusing on this school of education, right? Public policy advocacy. Uh, there was a decade ago, the only social impact education course that existed was Masters in Social Work in India. But now there's liberal arts. There are so many different courses that are coming up. Even law colleges have started a public policy program in many institutions in India. We know a couple of public policy firms. So, Yasmin, this is for you. They are typically catering to younger folks, literally planning internship programs in their second or third years, trying to bring them on board early and trying to groom them if there is a possibility of hiring them full time once their education ends. Something very innovative, and they have systematically created this pipeline of talent. They have a good cohort of talent internally from these educational institutions, which means the branding of the organization continues to grow because of the alumni. And at the same time, the word spreads, right? So more and more institutions get attracted because of the kind of people and the stature of talent which goes and represents the organization in various forums, conferences, etc., etc. So something for Yasmin, for you to definitely think about, considering you mentioned junior hiring is a key area of development for your organization. What do you think? Any thoughts?
I think for me, I agree. So my background, 2 roles before my current role is actually I used to organize those career fairs.
Okay, okay.
So I know them quite well. The problem, well, not a problem. The challenge is that, especially in Malaysia, I don't know if this is a problem elsewhere, but the
Yeah.
challenge that we have is that these career fairs tend to be very wide spectrum. So you get a
Okay.
lot of white noise when you're trying to recruit.
Okay.
And also because we're only hiring maybe 2 or 3 a year at the most.
Yeah.
The
Sure.
cost of participation, the cost of recruitment becomes very high given what we're trying to look for. So
Sure.
I agree with you. In fact, one of the things that we are looking at as part of our outreach program in Singapore is to see how we can mobilize ESG talent, young talent, in a more organized way. So we're getting into that space, but from a different perspective. But from our hiring, we're not large enough, essentially. We're not large enough to be able to constitute that kind of recruitment process.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Thanks a lot. Nice to meet you, baby. I know you are late, but feel free to share your introduction on the chat. I know everyone else might be knowing you, but for my own digestion, it would be great if you could share your introduction on the chat.
Oh yeah, of course. Sorry, I'm late. Hi, hello everyone.
No issues. Better late than never.
Hi, baby.
Yeah.
Hi, hello, hi, Yasmin. I'm from the Grower Climate Fund. So I know Kabir has been, putting a lot of effort in organizing all of this organizational development sessions. So just trying to dial in and listen to what our partners and grantees are saying about this and how we can best support these efforts going forward. So I'm on a learning mode.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Welcome. Yeah. Going back to my presentation.
We also have Kank who joined. Kank, maybe just a couple of words on your behalf, just introduce yourself. Yeah, just quickly. Yeah, so that we welcome you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry for joining you late. I'm Khanh from Green ID Vietnam. Yes, it is our great pleasure to have a chance to join the Action Learning Program with you. I missed some direct meeting, but I follow it by watching the video later. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Kank.
No, thanks a lot for coming. Thanks a lot for coming. So yes, we just spoke about how certain innovations, especially with respect to hiring talent, can be used. Saw a couple of job fairs, advertisements, and most countries and most locations usually have these well-funded, well-marketed, and like Yasmin said, a lot of noise based job fairs across the globe. But what we were kind of discussing is, are there specific educational institutions or the kind of talent that you have been successful in hiring in the past? Can I leverage them? Can I do private events with certain colleges, certain institutions to hire from? Maybe even run some internship programs wherein I can get them early, get them to work on a couple of projects for 2-3 months, and maybe use that opportunity to kind of attract them in a full-time role eventually. This kind of works wherein I think in our sector frugality is one of the norms and one of the good things that organizations are encouraged to do. And we expect talent to make that sacrifice of not expecting pay hikes, but join at a pay cut. Yasmin did throw in a number that how she joined a current space with a 30% pay cut. Those things kind of for young people, I agree with all you speakers, where younger people don't necessarily look at are very transactional, right? And with the pandemic, etc., people are trying to see what's good for their future, and they are not just looking at the short term, but they are also looking at the long term. It becomes a wide challenge, but definitely something for us to ponder upon, that how can we leverage certain institutions, certain pre-existing resources to figure out talent hiring at an early stage. Something that I think social media and websites, especially area-specific websites, are very conducive for hiring. Just to give you a context, Network Capital is a Facebook group. How many of you know Network Capital? It's a group, Facebook closed group, which was created by someone from Social Impact. It started off with 10 members in the first year. Now it has more than 10 lakh members. Just to give you an information, me and Satyam, the co-founder of Arthan, met on Network Capital. So we never knew each other. We happened to connect via Network Capital, and it's just so happened 8 months later we founded Arthan. So if we can meet each other, I also never believed in social media to an extent until that happened. I was also a person that who would think professional discussions on LinkedIn and social and
It
personal
sounds like
discussions on
you were
Facebook.
online dating, Rahul.
No, it wasn't online dating. It was
No, I
I
know, but
had
it sounds like you
yeah,
found your match on
yeah,
online.
yeah, it is. And I it just so happened that I never expected Facebook to be that route for me to get something like this professionally. But unfortunately or fortunately, the younger lot today are Instagramming and Facebooking. And if we need to attract the right people, we need to be also present in these spaces. Um, and there can be a variety of ways of doing it. There can be an active social media channel of your organization which can constantly push out stories or people from your own organization and stories of their field visit, something like what Joel mentioned, right? Which is a very attractive point, right? If Joel says, wherever you are, you can work for my organization. You don't necessarily need to be in Netherlands to play a role in your organization. So that can be a very important attractive point for people who are constantly thinking, I is traveling going to be okay? Is relocating going to be feasible? So if that's the case, you need to bring out these stories or pointers which keep you differentiated from most organizations out there. I know a couple of founders I'm very closely connected with who share Instagram stories of every meeting or every visit that they do on the field. I have a couple of NGO founders in education who, whenever they do a classroom visit, they capture a story of a kid or a teacher or an interaction with a school leader. It really improves engagement on the social media front, but at the same time, that helps him find talent, but at the same time talent comes back and constantly engages with you, and it really helps. And I think gone are the days where traditional job websites are the only way of attracting talent, because unfortunately I think all of you would agree with it. I'm sorry, I think someone's at the door and I'm alone at home. I'll have to give me a 2 minute break. Sorry, Anna. Um, yeah. So just was sorry for that slight break. But what I was talking about is being active on social media will definitely help, and there are innovative ways that many organizations are using. Um, but a couple, I know how many. I think one of the key challenges that we are seeing in the social impact sector is technology hiring, product hiring. As you know, technology enthusiasts are extremely expensive. And with so many giant tech-based startups raising money all over the place, crazy valuations doing numbers everywhere, most technology enthusiasts are constantly looking at your typical for-profit or typical startups in the FMCG technology world, but not necessarily are being attracted towards the social impact space. I know a couple of founders who have been using hackathons to attract technology people. So one of the edtech not-for-profit that we have in India recently did a hackathon in their office, and they did a wide social media post saying that we want to train 18,000 teachers on India's Independence Day, and they wanted to test a platform or design a platform which can lead to 18,000 teachers being covered in one day. And it was a great problem that they posted, and it attracted top institutions and top talent in the corporate sector to come and visit their office to fix that as a problem statement. I think it was a great initiative which led to them closing 3 roles internally. That exercise, yes, it was meant to be a problem solving exercise, but at the back of the mind, the organization in question was constantly looking at what is the kind of footfall do we have? What is the kind of talent who will come in? Is there any way we can convert some of the stronger talent into the social space? Couple of some of the ideas just that come to my mind, I just shared it with all of you. So network capital, Facebook, Angel List is a great platform for especially generalist talent. Angel List is slowly growing into a very strong platform for startups or early stage organizations, if I can use that word, across domains. It doesn't necessarily have to come from a typical corporate sector setup. So something which can be definitely leveraged, and they have free job postings as well. So organizations which do not have a huge budget to leverage from, something that you can think about when you are looking at hiring talent. And Angel List has a global footfall, so it's not necessarily confined to a certain location or a certain continent. So feel free to ask any questions. Anna, we'll be sharing the deck with the participants as well, right? So if you, and I know this recording will also be posted, so you don't necessarily need to take screenshots or notes. So yeah, so measuring the right fit, I think this is something I wanted to cover, and this will definitely help a lot of you participants think about what are some of the things that I can definitely employ to
Sorry, Rahul. We're not seeing your screen. Well, I don't see your screen.
Okay, 1 second. No, I think it abruptly ended for some reason. Anyways, now I hope it's visible. Is it visible now?
Visible, yeah.
Yeah, it's visible. Okay, great. So measuring the right fit, there are multiple psychometric tests that are being used. We have a couple of tests. I can list them down on the chat if it helps you. So there is a T test, which is a 60 question questionnaire which needs to be completed within 45 minutes. Organizations have figured out a metric against it. So a couple of organizations we work with use this test to test basic problem solving skills of candidates. If the candidate does not score a 45 out of 60 score, they are rejected. I know psychometric tests don't necessarily, they are not necessarily foolproof in nature, but something which the organization has figured out, and they have seen that historically whoever has scored 45 and above seem to have a very strong thinking ability and problem solving ability to work well in their setting. So something for everyone here on this call to think, what specifically can I use, or what tool can I specifically use for my own organization's context? There are other tests like Plum, 16 personality. You also have MBTI. All these tests can be used to also address diversity. we at Arthan recently used MBTI because we realized most of the people in the first 2 years of us existing, we had certain kind of personalities we were attracting to. So imagine me and Satyam taking interviews of all the candidates, and we would end up selecting those candidates who have the same personality trait as us, which in a way is good that we are able to find people who are like us, but in the long term it is not, because you also need to have complementary skills in every setting, right? You can't just look for people having similar mindset, similar thinking process, because long term it will backfire big time. So we forcefully started taking MBTI tests as a part of the application process, and for certain verticals and certain job functions, we pushed for certain personality traits, which enabled us to be more diverse and more inclusive. Yes.
Yeah, just a little interruption. Kanka has a question. She raised the hand. To listen to the question.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yes.
Yes, please, Kanka, go ahead with the question you have.
Yeah, Rahul, thank you. Can you please explain what does the MBTI stand for? Sorry, maybe I missed the previous part. Yeah.
So MBTI is a personality test which focuses on multiple personality traits, 16 personality traits. You can Google it. I can share the link also with you separately. So it focuses on introversion and extroversion. It talks about diplomacy and ability to lead people. It also takes into account, are you someone who likes to work individually, or are you someone who likes to work with people around? Someone who looks at who likes to work in groups and think in a group setting, or someone who likes to just implement stuff that is given to you. If you think about this, you'll realize there are certain verticals which needs direction more than some verticals, or you can call it fundraising or business development as some verticals where you would prefer people with extroversion or people who have a lot of outgoing skills, someone who loves meeting more people, who loves to engage with more people, more conversations, etc. So like I said, sometimes it's important that you are able to break barriers of a certain way that we conduct interviews, because these days job seekers, especially the younger ones, are using YouTube, are using yes, thanks Anna, are using certain tips and many social media websites to crack interviews, which means they know when Yasmin asks this question, what should I answer? Which means that they will definitely impress interviewers in every interview. But it's important that we are able to understand people more deeper. Not saying MBTI is the best tool out there, but it's a very strong indicator of certain personality traits which will help you make meaningful decisions when it comes to hiring talent. Does that help, Kank?
Yes, it's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So moving ahead.
Just one more. Joel also has a question.
Yeah,
that's okay. I just couldn't see the slides, so the slides came back on just a second ago. Yeah.
Sure. So another thing that we have seen many organizations forcing candidates to do is a strong covering letter, because in the covering letter they demand the job seekers or the candidates list down things or where they have successfully built something or successfully executed something, which goes beyond a CV, which goes beyond a resume. The reason being, the client in question mentioned that to me very clearly, is when we ask this as a application process tool, this forces a candidate to do research before applying. Because unfortunately in today's world, people don't necessarily read job descriptions before applying. They look at the title and think, oh, I am eligible. So if I see a policy and advocacy manager as a job, because I have done public policy, I apply to that job even without reading which organization is hiring for this and what is the role, responsibilities that entail in that role. So strong covering letter as a strong application step ensures that clarity. Um, I have already shared how internships and trials and project-based hiring can be a great tool to hire, especially younger talent. We also have a couple of very large NGOs which are hiring for C-level executives who have started a project as a part of the application process. So just to give you an understanding, this education NGO has those typical interview rounds. First round done by us, Arthan, second round done by someone from the HR team, and the third round is done by a panel which includes one board member and two other co-founders and senior leaders. But the fourth round is a project. And usually these projects run for 2 months or 3 months. And this requires 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours in totality over a period of 3 months. But this kind of project helps the organization identify the right skill sets or the skill gaps that are needed to cover if the candidate eventually comes on board. At the same time, this is a two-way street, which also enables the candidate to realize if this is a job for them or not. A great process. It's time consuming, but usually the hit rate or the success rate is amazing, and the retention rate is even more amazing. So something for everyone on this group to think about. For senior leadership process hiring, I would definitely recommend a 4 to 5 month process, which is more to do with identifying the right people that you would want to hire next year. Something that me and Satyam constantly discuss at the start of every year is, in the last year, we happened to meet these 3, 4 people. I happen to like the kind of work this person is doing in this setting, in this location. What can we do to attract this person maybe 6 months down the line? Can we have introductory conversations now? Can we have a plan to hire a person, which may not necessarily start in a traditional way of posting a JD, sending the JD to a candidate, etc., etc. It might just mean, for these 10 people that I would love to have them on board in the next 1 year, let me start by writing to them and figuring out a time for a cup of coffee when I'm there in that location. It is a very planned way of engaging with people with a very clear objective of converting them in 6 months. Something that I would highly recommend if you are looking to add senior leadership folks in the next 6 months. So Joel, if you are planning to build the first 5-member team in April next year, April, May, June, I would say start creating this hit list of candidates that you would love to work with.
Yeah, just to clarify on that one, when I said team building, it wasn't necessarily on the recruitment side of the equation. It was more in here's the existing team. How do we put in those structures and processes to help that team thrive? So that was the main point there.
Okay, fair enough. And secondly, also probation period. Some things social impact sector really needs to work on and build. A lot of times I have seen founders and CEOs really struggling to sack people, saying no to people. Yes, you made a mistake of hiring someone you should not have hired, but it's very important that when you figure that out, how do you engage? How do you ensure that the person has a comfortable exit, but at the same time, it's important that you are comfortable to be in that uncomfortable position of saying no. That can only happen when you have structures in place which can enable strong performance management, but at the same time, you are able to identify gaps in skills and in performance in people.
Yeah.
But I hope this was helpful. Yeah, someone had a question.
Yeah, Yasmin has a question.
Yes.
Sorry, Rahul, just to clarify, because I'm worried I got the wrong understanding. When you talk about 4 to 5 months, what you're saying is that as part of our planning to attract correct talent, we have to at least dedicate or allocate the time. So don't expect to do hiring too quickly. That's what you meant, right?
Yeah. And especially for senior leadership roles, because also at the same time, this is also for very big, mature organizations, wherein, for example, there have been cases where organizations have come to us and said, you know what, our COO is going to leave in October 2022. Arthan, can you come and help us understand the market for the top 10 CEOs who we can hire in November 2022? I don't want to be in a situation when the person leaves in October and then I start looking for people. That's in a very structured way. One point I was trying to make. The second point I was trying to make is for an organization which is small, which is at a very early stage. How do you constantly meet people with an intention to having them on board next year? You don't know what role, you don't know what position or what level, but the prima facie indication that you right now have is, I like these 5 individuals because of the kind of work they do. The quality of work is great. They are highly recommended. I know the quality of work their organization does. What would it take for me to hire this person 10 months down the line? And usually, Yasmin, you will agree, it's not about money.
It's
It's
essentially,
not
you're
just
talking about pipeline management, right? That's what you're looking
yeah.
at.
It's,
So how
yeah,
I caught some people for 12 months
yeah,
because at some point I
yeah,
want them to join my organization.
yeah. Because you want them to think of you when they are planning to move out of their current setting. And usually this has to be very structured. I know many organizations which structure out this process. I know a Series C funded social enterprise whose founder dedicates 1 hour every week for doing such interviews or such meetings every week. And she tells me, Rahul, if you have anyone strong out there, please block my 1 hour. That's for you. So something for all of us to think about. Is it practical for everyone? Maybe not, but something for us to structure or iron out in our busy schedules. Yeah. So moving forward, challenges around retention. Just to give you some statistics, 60% UL job candidates weigh in benefits, perks of the job before accepting an offer. Asia has the lowest job satisfaction rating in global employee engagement across all continents when measured. Um, Russians admitted that regularly working overtime or working to the limit is a major cause of work stress. I can share this is a global employee engagement data which was done by a couple of think tanks in uh, Europe. Happy to share this separately with you. Very good read. It will help you understand even deeper across within sectors and within industries what kind of jobs are lucrative beyond money. um, but this is the reality, right? And Yasmin, I remember you were mentioning that with the pandemic, etc., people are very wary about job change, but at the same time you are also seeing the great resignation in United States, right? People are putting family and putting work life balance and putting those aspects before stability, before a full-time paying job. So one needs to adapt, and as leaders of organizations we need to adapt fairly quickly, and also start thinking about other areas of concern for organizations. Just to give you an example, JPAL Southeast Asia, one of our clients, started a COVID health insurance for parents. And since they have inculcated that in their process or in their HR policy, it has helped them retain talent who were otherwise planning to leave. And it has been the game changer for a lot of candidates who would have otherwise been iffy and butty about joining JPAL. But that COVID health insurance worth some money was a key factor, because India has seen a couple of waves that has hit us, and lot of people are concerned about, especially the elderly at home. And I think one needs to really think about what policy or what kind of HR policy will definitely work for your organization or your setting in the certain locations that you are present in. How are we working? Very clearly, 40% of employees across the globe think they can't justify taking time off. I'm glad that all of you are constantly thinking about taking time off. I know this conversation started on an informal note. We were talking about vacations and holidays, but there's a huge majority of people who think twice before asking for leave. 92% of the workers work for 40 hours or more per week. 57% of the workers have unused vacation time at the end of the year. I also know of NGOs in India who force people to take vacations. Otherwise, they will take off their leaves. So they have these holiday policy. If you don't consume 50% of your holidays within the first 6-7 months of the year, we will take away those holidays from your roster. so there are many organizations which put people at the front. They want people to take vacations, they want people to take holidays, because apparently burnout is the norm in that organization and they don't want to suffer. What are your views on all of this? Would love to hear some of your thoughts.
Hi, this is Alex. Sorry, I'm joining late tonight. I had a meeting earlier.
Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, everyone. My question is, I was really interested in that stat from Asia around the job satisfaction. I'm just wondering if there was more granular data, like specific, like Asia is a very diverse region. It'd be great to see that.
I think just to throw a number, I think Singapore talent are the least satisfied, even though they are one of the most highly paid across. But I am happy to share that link with you separately. Anna, I will share these links and resources with you. Maybe you can go ahead and share it with the group.
Absolutely, of course. Yeah, and also Julia is asking to put that slide on the work, the last one.
I'm just sharing. I'm just sharing. This one, Julia, is this the one?
Yeah, it must be this one. Yes.
Yes, Julia, did you have a question? You can just unmute yourself and ask me.
No, I was kind of looking into it when we got some doubt, so I just wanted to look into it again. Okay. But yeah, this is the one.
Sure. Anything else? Any other thoughts? Thanks, Alex. We'll definitely share that data with you. But do you agree? Do you disagree? Is this something that you're seeing from your own personal experiences?
Oh, it makes me sad. It tells me that we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Kank also has a question, and I think Julia has a question.
Or maybe Kank just agreed.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I?
Yeah, please.
Can I share? Yeah. So the slide you just shared, it is the documenting or reflection from civil society, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's not just civil society, but it covers all the sectors. But obviously, the deeper underlying data can be shared. I'll share that link with you. We definitely lack reports when it comes to social sector. We don't have that kind of deep data.
I think if look at this, the data, it shows us that social work is so stressful, but it's so like but people working in this field are so devoted because like they spend time and suffering stress, but it's like overcome. Still is quite, I think that is also one of the challenge in my organization, because as an advocacy group, we have to respond immediately to the opportunity. So it seems for us that we have no time to rest, because it's consecutive campaign from this month to the other month. And we really try to find way to make life and work balance. So are there any tip or good practice that we can learn from that?
I will share that. I'll share that in future slides.
Okay, that is the
But
first
I
thing.
agree. But I agree with your assessment. Okay. Go on.
But another thing, when I want to reflection back to about when you said the recruitment process may take 4 to 5 months, but that is for own position or this for high level position, because like in our case, we have the regulation that everyone, if they leave, they have to inform 1 month in advance. So if 1 month is not enough to find a replacement. So whether we should change the regulation, but if we change it may violate the law.
I think more than changing the regulation, I think you need to set up systems where you are constantly talking to people on a regular basis. Like we have these quarterly conversations, quarterly reviews of performance. I usually, in the month of December, when I'm doing quarter number 3's review, I usually point this question to people: are you looking to stay beyond April? And you won't believe how strong that question is. Usually people are very open and transparent, and they say, definitely I'm thinking about, and with the kind of answers they give, it'll help you plan your human resources goal better. Usually you have younger people saying, you know what, I'm thinking of doing my masters. I'm planning to give my GMAT or GRE this year. That is an indication for you that this person will leave if they get a good score, which means I need to start thinking about a replacement now. I agree, I may not be able to hire everyone now, but the 4 to 5 month recruitment process is for such critical hires, because you don't want to be in a situation where you are thrown into the lurch last minute when a person says, listen, I signed an offer letter with you 5 years back. My notice period is 1 month. I am leaving next month. I feel this usually happens. I agree. This is not foolproof. There could still be a chance where a person might say, I will stay in April and work for 1 more year and still leave. But I'm still thinking, are there any ways and systems and processes that you can fit in to ensure that you are able to manage disasters or crisis early? Does that answer your question?
Yes, it means like monitoring and knowing the motivation from staff. It's a good signal for us to prepare, right?
Yeah. And also building a culture where people are openly telling you, you know what, I am planning to leave. I am planning to apply to these positions. Especially in Arthan, just to share an example, we are a team of 15 people and we have 11 people who are young, 2 to 4 years of experience. I don't want to use the word kids, but they are kids, right? They have just graduated a couple of years back. We have built a very strong family kind of culture where if anyone writes to them on LinkedIn, they will share a screenshot with me. Rahul, this person has written to me. They are hiring for these positions. What do you think? Is this a good organization? Can I ask my cousin or someone else in my family to apply? So it's a very open, transparent culture where I know the key employees in my team will definitely keep me in the loop and not accept an offer somewhere else and then tell me, Rahul, I'm planning to leave in 1 month. So I think a lot of these hiring conversations also lead into stronger work cultures and stronger processes which will enable you to lead stronger teams, transparent teams, but also people. I don't want to want people who are loyal. None of these employees are married to us, right? But the idea is how well can they be open and transparent with me, is something I need to think about. What is the kind of organization am I building? I hope people feel resonance with what I just said. But um, like I said, I think there are multiple challenges, right? Social sector is one of those sectors where growth chart is not easy to ascertain. People, when they join, they don't know if they will get promoted. If they get promoted, what will be the designation? What will be the salary hike? Unlike a Ernst and Young or a KPMG or a PwC or these typical consulting firms, I know I can join as an associate. Then in 1 year, I can become a senior associate. Then I can become a consultant, then a manager, then a senior manager. Nothing like it in the social sector. It's hard to define, especially with challenges around projects, donors, foundations who tweak their strategy. Suddenly, a foundation will pull out my grant. They will decide my goal for next year is not education but climate. Things change, right? And it's so difficult. Predictability is so difficult to ascertain in our sector. So that's one of the challenges we have to live with. How do you figure out growth mindset versus fixed mindset as a skill? How can we address it very early when we hire for people? Internal communications, ensuring that we are regularly meeting people, having check-ins, giving very tough feedback, setting a culture where people can give feedback to each other. I know i know many organizations where founders are very wary of getting feedback. They are very good at giving feedback, but they are very scared. They don't do 360-degree sessions, 360-degree feedback sessions. And a lot of these mandates where Arthan is supporting them, it becomes a one-on-one coaching conversation where we are trying to convince the organizational leaders to step up and display strong communication first before expecting employees to display strong communication. So it's very important, especially with respect to how funding is affecting the sector overall. I know so many NGOs in India are facing regulatory challenges. So many international foundations are pulling back grants because their focus areas turn to COVID, or they have turned to other areas of impact. Uh, Corporate social responsibility grants have dried out because COVID has meant many corporates are not making enough money. If you don't make money, how will you give? So I think it's very important that you are able to handle these conversations. You are keeping employees in the loop. You are having transparent conversations with folks on a regular basis. So, a couple of tips that I have, especially with people management, is so one quote: if you don't pay attention to what has your intention, it will take more attention than it deserves. Managing yourself. It's the first tip that I have when it comes to leading teams or setting your organization up for success from a human capital lens is manage yourself first, especially in times of crisis. World might be looking at one more lockdown, which might have serious consequences because of the new variant. It's very important that you are keeping up to date with everything that is happening critical around you. For that, it's very important you plan your day well, you keep a status check on all the key projects. um, Take time each day to remind yourself that you'll get through, and make sure as you are taking on more work, it's important that you are keeping backups and you are managing your own self in these processes, because I know the times are very hard and it's highly stressful, and people are generally losing sleep with the kind of times that we are all in. It's very important that we are able to cater to ourselves first before trying to cater to anyone in the organization or outside or any other big project that we are all handling. um, Staying a team, very critical. WhatsApp groups where work isn't discussed, but hobbies, books, weekend cooking plans are discussed. Informal lunches, thinking about, I know even when India was under lockdown, we had a team lunch which was virtual. So we all got our plates in front of our laptops and ate together. And there was one norm during that meeting: no one will discuss work. So these kind of events and initiatives kind of make people think of their organization more like a extended family. Important. Why? Because it's important, right? Because there's not a lot of positivity outside when you look at news or when you look at the newspaper, or even being around family members. Imagine there was a time when every family member had something else to do, and suddenly you are stuck in a confinement of your home and you have to live with them for 24/7. It's okay to live for 10 hours a day, but it's important that you are able to break the barriers of isolation and loneliness, and figure out things which encourage employees to build deeper relationships with all the employees, including you. um, People often say motivation doesn't last, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. Being open and honest, depending on how quickly things are unfolding. It could be a big grant that I was expecting to hit my bank account has been pulled back, which means funding will be a challenge. The runway that I had as an organization is less. It's a good idea to check in at least once a week, which is relevant to your team, if not daily. Have regular update meetings, try sending once a day email, organizing an informal team huddle, etc. The most important thing for organization is to ensure connections remain strong, especially when you are all working in isolated time zones and not having FaceTime. When things are changing quickly, the one thing that helps us is control of information. You don't want rumors to surface. You don't want people to talk behind your back. You know what, this person is leaving because funding is a big challenge in your organization, etc., etc. The last thing you would want is people are not talking to you, but they are talking amongst one another, which is not leading to any solution. um, which works. It was and is never meant to be easy, right? So being as open and honest to one another is going to be very critical. uh, Being compassionate. If you get questions you are not comfortable with or prepared to answer, be honest. It's okay to tell your team, I don't know that right now, I can share that today, but promise to update you. As leaders, the ability to show compassion to the people we work with can make the entire difference. It's important that you're checking in with employees who are suffering from COVID. Can you have systems of support for people? Even an email, an organizational email being sent. I know so many corporates in India who did not even address their employees when India in April, May, literally in Delhi, every fourth person had COVID in a city like Delhi. And I remember some of the big corporates did not even write an email to their staff, a 6,000, 7,000 member staff. So I feel as leaders, especially in the social impact space, we need to be more compassionate. We need to acknowledge the efforts of those who are on the front lines still working. There have been NGOs who are working 24/7 during lockdown as well. So how are you catering to challenges and problems that they are facing on the ground? And cutting out the symbolism. Communication should give those affected a clear idea of what's in store of them when things are sense of control, even if you have no immediate answers. Systems and processes, very quickly, setting the culture, list the things that are non-negotiables at your end when it comes to communication. Do you use Slack? Do you use Basecamp? Do you use WhatsApp? Be very clear, because right now we are on a digital overload. People are always there digitally. So it's very important that you set up cultures where if WhatsApp is not used for work, ensure that you are not WhatsApping people. um, Make sure that you are addressing things the way it should be addressed if it's certain modes of communication. And uh, and especially when it comes to critical projects, external stakeholders have a team of two dealing with it. If one drops the ball, other takes over. Set a schedule for regular communication. etc., for your team. Managing capabilities and headcount. I think something Joel also mentioned, right? It's very important that we are not looking at human capital only from the lens of how many people are there. It's very important that you are able to measure capabilities and not how many people. So can you identify the top 5 skill sets that are needed in your organization? What are the top 5 skill sets that exist in your organization, and how do I fill that gap? Instead of saying I have 50 people in my organization today, I need to grow by 50 to reach 100. That's not sustainable, right? Because you need to prepare not just for the present but also for the future. Think very critically, what are the skill sets that will be relevant for your organization, for the field of work you are in 6 months, 12 months down the line. Because the kind of crisis that we are in today, it's very important that you are planning for the future. And it's hard, right? Every one of you would be thinking, I'm already doing this, and now Rahul at 2:30 India time is telling me do this also. But it makes your life easier, right? And I think all of these are interlinked in some way or the other. How to ensure productivity? Clearly communicate priorities, hold employees accountable, have systems in place of review, check-ins, and there needs to be some expectation setting, right? If there's a proposal which has a deadline of Sunday midnight, you might have to work on a weekend. It is good if you communicate it with people well in advance, so that people have very strong responsibility and accountability for anything they are taking up. Having very strong systems. So if you see, all the tips are kind of interlinked, right? Communication seems to be at top of every kind of criteria that we are talking about. A vital team characteristic is the ability to overcome adversity. Any team acquires experience and endurance as it learns to fight back. This in turn builds the kind of character which seldom crumbles at a time of crisis or setting. That's about it. It's 2:45 right now, but happy to take any questions. Sorry, it went slightly longer in terms of monologue, but would love to hear some of your thoughts. Anything that resonated with you, anything that you are taking away and you would want to implement in your organization. Would love to hear some ideas. Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. Can I say something? Your slide give give me and also reconfirms some important points. Support for the cultures building, and also maintaining the motivation. Yeah, sure. And I just want to share, I totally agree with you on the clear communications message for timeline, for the way we do, and also I think another lesson learned, we see that in digital world we can have a tool to support for strengthening our effectiveness. Like for us, when we have to move to work virtually, we have to find way to overcome the distance. So luckily we found there is a because I know in Microsoft it or Office 365 it have a number of tools, but it is in English, and we work mainly with many partners and in Vietnamese, so it may not feasible for all of us, but we have a Vietnamese software product, then we can use for the whole management and governance system in the organization. So we apply it for planning, for requesting funds, for budgeting, and also it automatically help to monitor and inform us, and it alarm us. It shows weeks are in delay and how many % of the work is completed per person, I think it helped a lot for us. And after a number of months of like this, I see that it helped to improve our efficiency a lot. But at the beginning, it takes time to learn, but clear communication is important. But we need tool to help. And if we find an appropriate tool and everyone follow it, it work well. It work well. I think that is what I learned and want to share. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. Joel, you raised your hand. Julia, you can go next right after Joel.
Thanks. I was just wondering, how have you set up in your own organization everyone's capacity to have difficult conversations?
Okay, that's a great question. I think one of the key elements, thanks a lot for asking, Joel. I think one of the key elements that we are pushing a lot of people internally in our team is to build leadership skills right from the start. Even if you are at an entry level in terms of position at Arthan, we encourage people to have, we give them budgets to hire interns literally from their third month. I think when you lead people, you realize how difficult or how easy or difficult it is to have conversations around communication, accountability, responsibility, because when you give responsibility to someone, either they will fly or either they will sink, right? And there are ways to address it. I think what we have done is we ensure that we are doing these quarterly review conversations where potential managers shadow me or shadow team leaders who are reviewing performance. And we do quick debrief conversations. We also ensure that, for example, I spend time shadowing people who are having interns conversations or performance management conversations in their own team. Satyam does the same for his vertical. We do that very consciously and constantly, because there's no better way to learn unless you do it. Secondly, I think there have been instances where we have asked people to leave for underwhelming performance for whatever reason, right? So I think constantly we have been very transparent about that internally. So when we do make such decisions, we tell other employees that this has been the stand that we took, and in a very cordial way, right? We are not trying to belittle someone's exit, but the idea is we keep our expectations and benchmark of performance very high, but we also let the team know that this is the ideal benchmark that we are working with, and we need to overachieve. We need to push ourselves to be better. So I think if I have to summarize, it will be more like displaying it constantly so that people learn from you, but at the same time, you are also consciously supporting and handholding people when they have to lead such conversations. I hope that answers your question. Joel, I hope that answers your question. You are on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I gave you a visible thumbs up. It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Julia, and then Ruby.
I had two questions actually. One was my initial question, and another one piggybacking on what we're talking about here. So I'll invert the order. Regarding the hard conversations and the performance, like one of my concerns, especially because we are all remote, is that there may not be enough support from the organization itself to help people perform the way they should. So I think you should never find yourself in a position where you're telling someone you didn't perform well enough, you have to go, and you didn't provide the support or the training or the feedback. Is something I was talking about with Joel on a little separate chat. So I was wondering, for example, how that played out for you guys in the situation that you were describing, where you let someone go and you talk to the team, like this person has been let go, we felt that the performance was not up to standard, we are aiming high.
Yeah. I think this was pretty early, right? A person joined in June and had to leave in July. So it was pretty early. And I think over the course of those 5 weeks that this person worked, we had weekly check-ins. That is a norm in our organization. And there was a pattern getting built. So we basically realized that the person is not ready for that role. It was a wrong hire at our end, but it was explained to that person and we enabled that person to get a better job more suited to their skill sets outside. But we also never kept it hidden to the other team members, right? Because everyone knows this person suddenly has popped out of all the meetings, right? We don't want to keep it hidden. But at the same time, we also took responsibility to the fact that what can we do to hire the right people? But at the same time, we also understood that there are certain skill sets that we can't compromise upon. But at the same time, it also helped us learn more about the systems and processes in place. But I agree, it should not be a case where 4 weeks nothing happened, fifth week you tell a person to leave. There, there has to be some system around training or feedback or one-on-one systems where you are telling the person, you know what, your performance is not up to the mark. This is what we recommend you do. This is what we can provide you. These are the resources you can leverage. Let's review it again a week later and see where it goes. I think if this happens regularly, most likely a person will have a turnaround. I agree.
My other question is on a more positive note and completely unrelated, but tying to what we were discussing earlier. We were talking both about the fact that you may not be able to pay sort of market salaries and how benefits maybe, or like there are other ways in which you can compensate that may not necessarily be monetary. And I was talking to Joel about this 60% dissatisfaction number that you gave for Asia. And I was wondering how you can communicate about perhaps, for example, about your culture as a benefit in a way that, would you do that sort of when you were finalizing an offer, you found someone that you want and you say, listen, we understand this is below, perhaps less than you would expect in other sectors, but like this is something, here's something we can offer. This is our culture. This is how we work. We think that you'll be a good fit, etc. Do you do it from the beginning? Like when you're advertising, you say, for example, we have a very open, inclusive culture. We try to balance life and work. I don't know. I was just wondering how you communicate.
I think we usually don't mention salary bands when we advertise. The reason being, there are two reasons for it, right? It might also detract people from applying, but also at the same time, we don't want people to feel detracted because honestly speaking, in a setup like ours, we are open to negotiate. We are open to figure out what the other person is demanding. And obviously, if the budget for my role is 100, and if a person is already making 300, then it's no point, right? That's like a humongous amount of pay cut. But I also would want to see if a 120 or a 130 person is applying, because the gap then is very little. But the minute I advertise a job saying the compensation is 100, there's a chance this person already earning 120, 130 may not even apply. So the first thing that works well for us, it might be different for any one of you here. We don't advertise jobs with compensation in mind. Secondly, I think it's also important to share the story behind the organization. So we have created a couple of YouTube videos about why we started Arthan. The first 6 months of our organization was spent in a coffee shop. Me and Satyam would open the shutter of that coffee shop with the folks working there, and we'll shut the coffee shop with them. That was our norm, right? And we shot this YouTube video where we went to that coffee shop, reminisced the whole first year. We interviewed all the interns and the employees at Arthan that year. And we started using that video as a part of the JD or social media, and asked people, if you are willing to work with like-minded people or work in an organization which has grown from a coffee shop to where it is now. I feel there are so many unique ways to showcase the positive elements of your organization. So one needs to figure that out. I know when I was at Teach for India, I would advertise Shaheen, the founder of Teach for India's TED Talks as a part of the application, because that was powerful. That was one of the reasons why I joined Teach for India in the first place. So why wouldn't I use that? So I think there are so many unique and different ways that one can try, and there's no best way. So Julia, I will never say that if you make a YouTube video, that's the only way, but there can be different ways. So Julia, you can also share things around, I am Julia, I work for Triple CA, this is what I do. I am looking for 3 people who can help me grow Triple CA from X to 2X in the fields of X, Y, Z. 1 second. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Rahul. We'll take one more question from Ruby. Then there will be just a small question from me, and then we'll probably slowly move towards wrapping up the session. Ruby had a question, I think. Ruby, are you there?
Thank you, Anna. So hi Rahul. I'm sorry I'm late in joining the session. So so my question has been addressed actually, by you when you answered Julia's questions, because it's very relevant to that. But let me just, sharing, I think the experience that we often face in our organization. Our organization is pretty much a startup, right? So we don't have that kind of issue around retention because we are just founders. But we work with so many local, organizations who are often, very small in terms of their annual budget, and often, try to attract volunteers or students to work with them, in first 2 years, and then start to, hire them, as a full-time employee. But by the time they try to hire them, these people are already looking at different kind of, organizations, because, they, because the small budget that the, organization offer, so, how can we support this kind of organizations, in terms of, knowledge, skill, or tips, so that they can try to make sure that, at least the people that they've already grown, from, from when they were students and all that, not just leave because, they look for, a better kind of opportunity. So that's probably my question.
I think, Ruby, there will always be reasons for people to leave. I think it's very difficult as organizational leaders to constantly think about the flaws or the negativities, right? I think what's important is that you focus on what is it that you can provide which no one else can. What are the differentiating factors of working at Active Asia? I think that's what you need to focus upon, because there are always organizations. If you ask Google today, they will also say, my top talent leaves for Amazon every year. And if you ask Jeff Bezos, he'll say the same thing, that Google and Microsoft take away my top talent. Even the best paymasters out there know their flaws. But I think what's important is, what are your strengths? What are the few areas that differentiate you as an organization when it comes to culture, processes, people, cause, or solutions to a cause? So I think hitting home on that fact constantly will be the game changer. I think, and also being aware, like, why are people leaving? So if 5 people left Active Asia in the last 1 year, it's very important that you really understand at a deeper level, why did they leave? There could be some surface level reasons, but it's very important that you identify the main cause of leaving and then work on it, right? Because you can't cover for all corners. You can't. no matter how hard you try. And I think perfection is not something we should drive ourselves for. I think we should focus on being good to begin with. Perfection is something which is not practical. I don't know. Ruby, does that answer your question? Because there will always be
That
reasons.
answered my question perfectly, Rahul. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, someone is really wanting Rahul's
Yeah,
attention.
because I had one more meeting at 3 p.m.
Oh, okay,
So,
so we will not holding you any longer. Maybe just one little thing from myself, and we will wrap up quickly. Could you just say maybe a couple of words, like very briefly, what kind of coaching you or Arthan can provide on these matters, on team building, retention, talent management, motivation, performance, leadership? Just very quickly.
sure. Yeah, I think we can definitely figure things out. I am not sure of that right now, but we can definitely figure out a way to. I don't know. We can also connect separately and think about how we can leverage each other's knowledge better.
Yeah, I think that would be the best way to do so. Please free to reach out to Rahul with your individual requests, questions, so whatever you want to continue conversation.
Would love to connect. I know we are in touch with Joel, but would love to understand from others on the call how we can potentially collaborate or work together in some way or the other.
Exactly. So on this note, let's give a round of applause to Rahul. Thank you so much. It was very insightful, very diverse and interesting discussion we had today. So let's keep in touch. I will share, of course, the materials, so presentation, which Rahul will send to me later. And thank you so much for everyone for joining and for all your interesting questions and contributions to the discussion. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.